Welcome back to The Different Knock. Before we get started, I just need to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that's OneFootball. The OneFootball app has everything you need to follow football. News from around the world, fixtures, live scores, stats, and updates on the transfer market from every league you can think of. Now the window's over and I can stop refreshing Twitter every 3 seconds, the aggregator of transfer news is really useful in terms of being up to date on the latest gossip surrounding Arsenal. In my last video, I thought I was joking when I said we can watch Arsenal win the title on the OneFootball app, but now it might not be a joke. So if you want to watch Arsenal's title charge live for free in the palm of your hand, go and download the OneFootball app now. The link is in the description. So, Arsenal. Let's start with some facts, shall we? Arsenal Football Club are top of the Premier League with 5 games played, having taken the maximum available points from their opening games. Won 5, drawn none, lost none. It's the 4th time in Arsenal's history they've won the opening 5 games of a league season, and only 11 managers in Premier League history have won the opening 5 games of their league campaign. Pep tried to tell you. He really did.
Mikel knows everything. He's so good.
When the football's good, the decisions are going your way, mostly, and you're flying, life seems sweet. There will come a time this season when we as a fan base are questioning the direction of the club, whether the players are good enough, even the manager. And I hope we remember this moment. Arsenal are flying, but that's enough gloating. Behind the joy of it all is an incredible amount of detail, hard work, and strategic thinking from the club. Results don't just happen, they come out of good process, good recruitment, and in the end, good coaching. Albeit another year older and wiser, they're still a young team. So what are Arsenal doing tactically this season that sees them sitting top of the Premier League? Perhaps the most obvious tweak Mikel Arteta has made this year is to Arsenal's on-ball first and second phase, or in-possession structure, before the final third. This change has facilitated much of Arsenal's newfound control, and therefore consistency in results. Clearly it's never quite as simple or symmetrical as these diagrams show in an actual game, but it's moved from what could roughly be described as more of a 3-2-5 last season into something more like a 2-3-5 this season, with Zinchenko and White tucking into form almost a midfield 3 at times when they've been available. Tierney has been asked to invert at times when he's been selected, which shows it's something Mikel wants to keep doing regardless of personnel. When we look at the who scored average position radars for the 3 games that White and Zinchenko have been available against Crystal Palace, Leicester City and AFC Bournemouth, you can see that tweak playing out in the game. Zinchenko sits tightly on Xhaka and White stands in a triangle with Ødegaard and Saka, both playing closer to the centre of the team than a traditional fullback, with neither attempting to join the front line as a 5th forward in the outside lane in the way that Kieran Tierney might be more comfortable doing. Owing to their comfortability in possession and ability on the ball, Zinchenko and White can sit narrowly either side of Partey as almost auxiliary midfielders, allowing the game to be stretched ahead of them by the forward players. So, why has Mikel done this, other than to copy Pep, obviously? Firstly, the central zones are the worst possible place to lose the ball. So when the fullback can become a dependable outball for the midfielders and someone who the manager trusts not to lose possession there, you can spend more time in dangerous central zones as a team, creating central overloads to quickly advance up the pitch, especially with such progressive and dynamic passers like Zinchenko and White. Here you see White in a more traditional fullback position, wide, juxtaposed with Zinchenko who's tucking in as he receives the ball. Xhaka pulls to the exterior, knowing where he's going. Tucking your fullbacks in means you can create passing triangles more regularly in central zones than with a touchline fullback, who might be high and wide more. That means you don't have to recycle possession backwards or out wide all the time. Here, Zinchenko, Jesus and Xhaka try to combine, but it comes to nothing. More of the touchline type, Tierney's instinct might have been to look for the overlap and enter the marked out zone, but Zinchenko's comfortability and instinct means he can remain as the outball in a more useful position for the attacker under pressure inside. That means here, he gets to a loose ball lost centrally by Jesus quickly, and Arsenal keep possession, recycling over to the other side. Then Ødegaard gets in a bit of a tangle and is under pressure. In a team whose fullbacks are not that comfortable inside, Saka may be further to the left as indicated on the diagram, as White would likely be pushed further out as more of a touchline fullback, also indicated. Because White is now inverted, the distances are much closer, so Ødegaard finds him, Arsenal retain possession and start another build-up wave. Feeling comfortable inside, closing those distances, instead of having your fullback standing miles away trying to stretch the opposition's defensive line as a more traditional wingback, not only helps you retain possession, but that reliable pass option and comfortability to pick up different positions in and outside gives the midfielders and attackers something to work with to create chances. If your fullbacks are comfortable on the ball and can offer you quality build-up, it also means you can free men ahead of them. White's narrow position means Ødegaard shifts further up, with no need for him to be involved in build-up behind the ball. White forms a passing triangle with him and Partey. A short, sharp pass into Partey goes forward, which Ødegaard leaves to receive from Saka, and Arsenal break forward. 4v3 as Ødegaard commits the defender and plays forward. In another setup, Ødegaard might have been the player who was behind the ball, and Arsenal would have had to recycle possession out wide to someone like Ben White. Here, Zinchenko has picked up another position inside, and Xhaka has pulled out wide again. Another triangle to work with. With another player, as you can see with White in this case, the fullback might be more comfortable or instructed to be in a more traditional zone to stretch the Leicester defence. But Zinchenko is comfortable inside, and his on-ball quality in the position he's in means the Leicester players have been dragged out slightly, so there's a little bit of space created where there might not have been before centrally. Zinchenko plays a lovely 1-2 with Martinelli, and his ability on the ball means he can find Gabby with a chip ball in behind to exploit the space that was created by his dangerous and unique positioning. Look how chaotic and disjointed the Leicester defensive line is because of it. The resulting corner leads to the goal at the back post from Jesus, making it 2-0 to the Arsenal. In the end, this becomes a numbers game. Your fullbacks inside more in possession means more often than not you can create numerical superiorities in the midfield, more triangles appear, and you can make more things happen in central zones by sacrificing external, less dangerous areas when in possession. It sounds so simple, you wonder why other teams don't do it. But there are very few players who are good enough on the ball, confident enough in different areas, and defensively sound enough to play the roles Zinchenko and White are playing. And you also need a team around them who are capable of facilitating this tactical switch. Without the recovery pace, delaying ability and intelligence of Gabriel and Saliba, as well as the work rate of Saka and Martinelli getting back, the zones you leave out wide might get exploited. They're top players, and it's top recruitment and top deployment. It also means you control the football a lot more, meaning you can create more chances and stop the opposition playing. While we must stress the small sample size on these and consider the quality of opposition played, in the 5 games played so far, Arsenal have already increased their passes per match from 481.32 last season up to 515.18 this season, and their average possession has gone up from 53.2% to 56.3% on average, suggesting the control of the football has increased from last season, and we can safely assume it's partly due to this tactical switch. The final third pass distance data tells us what's happening too and shows the distances are decreasing. The excellent Scott Willis's data tells us that the average distance for open play passes that start in the final third of the pitch over the last 3 seasons has gone down this year. Distances in the final third decreasing is a good thing. Having your players closer together in this setup means more quick interchanges of the ball and more effective combination play, giving rise to the great football we're seeing so far, and the fullbacks play their role in that as shown. Your fullbacks inverting is a helpful option, but it doesn't mean they spend all their time there. Against Crystal Palace, for example, Zinchenko spent more time as a touchline fullback because there was space to exploit, while Palace overloaded Zaha's side on the left to try and isolate White 1v1. And against Bournemouth, Ben White was overlapping Saka and Ødegaard much more, as Bournemouth tried to pack the central zones in a low block. It's about having options. Different dynamics, as Arteta would say. Having more players who are comfortable in various positions can give the opposition a headache. It enables your positional play to come alive to find new solutions. Players are popping up in more and more interesting areas, as the fullbacks are now able to cover, vacate, and attack more central spaces than we have been able to before, dependent on the opposition. Here, Zinchenko is inverted again. So according to positional play principles, Xhaka has gone out wide and Martinelli has come in as a second striker. This could be an instruction in order to occupy a certain defender, or just instinct from the players, but regardless it gives Bournemouth a different problem, and may enable Martinelli and Jesus to play off each other a bit more. They know Zinchenko isn't going to give the ball away in a vital zone, so we can do it. It also means we can pin teams back a little more and have more central cover to stop the counter, which allows other players like Xhaka and Ødegaard to roam a bit more. At times we form almost a ring around teams, forcing them back and suffocating them with possession. Our fullbacks are often the first to commit to recovering the ball, like Man City, delaying the player while others go to their defensive shape. The overloading of central areas forces the opposition back, wide, and into less advantageous positions. Look at the difference in the touch maps between Arsenal's fullbacks and Leicester's shown below, Arsenal's left, Leicester's right. They had a similar amount of touches, 116 for Zinchenko and White, and 111 for Castagna and Justin, but look how much narrower Arsenal's men are and how much more dangerous their position is relative to Leicester's goal. Justin and Castagna's influence is limited. When your fullbacks have more touches in the build-up, it means there's free teammates ahead of them that can go and occupy defenders further up the pitch. Zinchenko has not been available in the last 2 games, and Kieran Tierney has filled in. At times, Tierney has played high and wide in his usual position, and Ben White has responded by playing more of that third centre-back role that we saw Tomiyasu play last season. Initially against Fulham, up against their 4-3-3 block, Tierney was isolated, as you can see here, and Arsenal couldn't get through the midfield, as they had very few options between the lines. Tierney is a lot less comfortable in the midfield than Zinchenko, but around 20 to 30 minutes into the game, he began to come inside a bit more, and he did a little against Villa too. This meant Arsenal could commit another man forward, Xhaka in this case, and it occupied another Fulham defender further up the pitch. Fulham had to drop someone from their front 3 back when out of possession, they were stretched, and Arsenal could move through the thirds easier with the ball into the midfield between the lines as well as out wide. Arsenal's running XG had a number of significant small jumps from about half an hour onwards, Correlation doesn't always equal causation, but to my eye, Arsenal looked better when Mikel made that tweak. So that's an overview of the main shift, the inverted fullbacks. But perhaps the most exciting part of all this is the knock-on effect it's had on other players, and the way it's brought our positional play to life. You could probably select every single player on the pitch and highlight their new or slightly adjusted role, but I'll just pick one. Granit Xhaka. From someone who fans, including myself, have derided for many years, it's incredible that Granit Xhaka is so indispensable for Arsenal now, but he is. Against Aston Villa, Granit Xhaka had the most touches and made the most passes out of any Arsenal player, and he was my player of the match. Not that he cares. Here's his touch map. He was quite literally everywhere. Xhaka's role has been pushed one up, from a kind of pivot 6 alongside Partey, who could fill in the left-back slot when Tierney went off up the wing on holiday, and then could advance forward. But as we've seen when discussing the fullbacks, Granit Xhaka is now popping up everywhere. Inside, outside, on the left wing, both penalty boxes, and even on the right. It's almost not worth naming Xhaka's new role, possibly you could call it a free 8. It's more about what he's now doing when compared to before. He's making a lot more forward runs and having a lot more penalty box touches, 3.5 per 90 this season, up from 1.74 per 90 last season. He's making more shot and goal creating actions per 90 and having a huge influence on Arsenal's forward play. As well as his excellent positional play, interchanging with Martinelli and Zinchenko on that far side, his off-the-ball running adds so much dynamic to Arsenal's football, and Arteta's decision to push him further up has paid huge dividends. I'm about to show you a really innocuous 15-second bit of play, but Xhaka does so much great intermediate value stuff that really pays off, and I think it's worth highlighting. Xhaka is always showing for the ball, and this is no different, dragging a midfielder with him and creating the space for Tierney to move into. Martinelli finds Tierney down the left, and he's away, but Xhaka slightly checks his run so he doesn't arrive into the box too soon, as good midfielders do. He then anticipates Digne about to head the ball away from Tierney, and steps back before everyone else. He anticipates the flight of the ball, wins it, and Arsenal retain possession. It's really simple, and he's not going to be the PFA Player of the Year for it, but that kind of small stuff, correct decisions and smart movement every 3 or 4 seconds is really, really important for a team. And now in the freer role, we can see his excellent decision making and quick thinking in more high value situations. He makes blindside and third man runs consistently, interchanges smartly and reads the game so well. The technical and physical deficiencies are still there, but they matter less in less dangerous positions, and now his influence on and off the pitch has never seemed more important. The space he picks up for the goal is obviously nice too, but that's more about terrible defending from Villa for me. Look at that line. Perhaps Villa underestimated him, like I did, and perhaps Wenger was right, yet again. Forgive me, Father, indeed. A couple more things that I've noticed in our opening 5 games. Arsenal are doing a lot more front-footed defending now, which Arteta loves and talks about consistently in the Amazon All or Nothing series. His idea is to defend forward, and Arsenal are starting to do that a lot more. In fact, their PPDA, passes they allow the opponent to do before making defensive action, has reduced or improved since last year. Last season, Arsenal were at 11.7 over the season, which is about average. This season, we're at 10.16 on average over 5 games, which would put us among the better teams on that graph last year. Against Leicester, we were at 9.1, and against Fulham, we were at 5.4 passes per defensive action. We're making more proactive defensive decisions, and it's paying off. Here, Gabriel Magalhaes, who does a lot of this, shows us a perfect example. Johnny Evans looks to play the ball forward towards Jamie Vardy. Gabriel spots it coming and executes a perfect early duel, bossing Vardy off the ball. When I lose a duel, Arsenal win the ball and we're able to launch an attack. We've seen Gabriel do this before with less success, and we've paid the price for his clumsiness against Southampton and Man City with his red cards, one against Gabriel Jesus no less. Having a 1v1 specialist behind him now in William Saliba must help, but this is something we're seeing all over the pitch. The final thing is the pressing structure. This video is already at risk of becoming longer than the list of people who owe Mikel Arteta an apology, so I don't have time to go into it right now, but there's a great video by EBL2017 on Twitter that goes into this in a bit more detail. In short, a basic principle you'll see time and time again these days is that once Arsenal have equal numbers, there'll be a player ready to move in man for man on each opposition ball receiver, forcing them into decisions quickly. It's simple and incredibly effective. How Arteta actually coaches that to work time and time again, whether it's a man-for-man thing or a zonal system, I don't know, but I'd love to, and the increased athleticism in the team is forcing teams to go long and make a lot more errors. Other things that deserve a mention. Jesus and Nketiah's interplay in the 3-5-2, his use of holding to see out games as discussed before, Jesus vacating then exploiting space, Saka and Martinelli's interchanging in freedom to explore central zones. There's so much, and at some point, we'll cover it all. Tactically then, Mikel Arteta has done some extraordinary work evolving, recruiting for, and coaching this team. But there's something more there too. Something is changing in the energy around the Emirates and the club in general. Everyone can feel it, a strength, a presence, a new life. It's taken just 2, 1, 8 and 3 minutes respectively for Arsenal to respond to conceding a goal this season. That's not normal. And considering this is a team who, until the Fulham game, had not won a game from a losing position, having conceded a goal in the second half since December 2013, it tells me something is afoot mentally too, both on and off the pitch. That's possibly for another day, but its importance cannot be understated. You need the right character and mentality to execute any game plan. Arsenal are flying, and long may it continue. It may sound simple, but considering the myriad ways we can interact with it outside of the ground, we have to remind ourselves football is played on a pitch, not in the boardrooms or on the internet. If you can get your ideas across to the players better than the other guy on the training ground, and those ideas are better than the other guy's ideas, then you might just have a chance. And by the looks of things, Mikel Arteta is getting his ideas across very well. Thank you so much for watching The Different Knock. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please consider supporting us on Patreon monthly or head to buymeacoffee.com for one-time support. You can find me at AMOnFootball on Twitter, and we're at DiffKnock on all social media. Also, check out our podcast. All the links are in the video description. Thanks!